Hello there, welcome back to the Inner Sanctum, girls and boys, the place where I show you all my tricks, while pull them off live right in front of you. And today we're quite happy, quite excited, because as you might be able to see, we have a fantastic new setup for the entire show. Aren't we? There we are, Mini, the stunning and brave, and it gotta be said from time to time beautiful. Look at that, how beautiful, and somebody's actually playing video games rather than working.
Did you talk to me?
I am talking to somebody.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was a bit occupied.
Oh, I can see.
Hello, girls and boys, how's it going? I'm very glad to be back, and it's great to have you here as well.
What happened to your lower third?
My lower third needs to be accessed, so you're gonna have to give me
Somebody's
a
actually working, playing video games.
There
There
it
you
is. Look,
look at that.
Ahí está.
Okay, so you were saying?
I was saying that, yeah, I'm actually excited. This whole new rig and this whole new setup is being put to the test right now.
Yes.
And I gotta say that I'm quite happy with it so far.
Totally not responsible on our end, because we are not only rocking a new way to control the entire setup, but also we're live streaming to Rumble at the same time, and we attempted to live stream to X, but it seems that we need to pay for the full price. Obviously. Whatever, it was worth a shot. Today is going to be the ending of this particular series of live streams that we have been working on for the last few weeks, on which I am covering the basic stuff that should be in your head whenever you are working on a new mix or producing songs in this 2025, the years of the Lord. And today we're going to be working or explaining and discussing the most important plugins that I consider any single one of you who might be thinking on getting into this dubious job that is music production and mixing music and taking it seriously. I will share with you some of the plugins that I consider to be the most important ones. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Welcome back to Logic Pro 11, and in front of us we have the project that we're going to use for this very exercise. As usual, I'm going to begin the entire set, the entire project, the entire live stream by or with listening to the track from start to finish so we can get familiar with it. Robbie, good to have you here, so let's get to it. Please pay attention, because actually, as soon as I press play, I'm going to be using the first plugin. Here we go.
I'm speaking to you from the center of the town that was struck by plague. The streets are deserted, the inhabitants behind their doors.
Okay, that sounds badass, actually. Yeah. That was better than I remember it. What do you think?
I think it's kind of it's flowing.
Yeah,
It
look,
has it already gets you.
kind of jamming
Jam
to
into it, yes.
Yeah, look, this is not a mix. This is actually the rough. This is just me after I loaded the files. So the first plugin that I will show you is not necessarily a part of my list. This is going to be just an honorable mention. This plugin is the one that you saw on the screen. This is Decibel, and what you see is not just the controls for a spaceship. That's actually my mirroring system that I like to use, and we actually discussed aplenty last week. But what I got here is the actual screen that I always use. This is the actual set of tools that I have in front of me. What do we have in front of us right now? This is what I use to meter or to control and to take a look at the loudness of my track throughout time. Very important for mixing. And I decided to show you this first because if you mix way too loud, you're gonna ruin the chances for your master to sound badass after it's been uploaded to Spotify, you name it. And in here, Decibel allows you to come up with your own dashboard. And in this case, I am using the super meter, which shows us many things at the same time, including the throw dynamic range, the loudness, throw time. Over here, I got the entirety of the different elements of the loudness, which is the momentary, the short, and the integrated. And then we got a display that shows us the loudness of the track while the track was playing, as you can see here, showing me the dynamic range of it. Here I got a quick reference to how, if I am within the range of what the loudness of my mix should be. Here I got the loudness of the mid and the side, and I have a spectrogram here showing me the spectral information of my track. Badass! But there's more. I don't need the plugin because, show him, Diego.
Yes.
Look at this. I got an iPad from the dark age of technology, which is live streaming, well, broadcasting or representing, displaying the exact information that the plugin has on my session without me having to get the plugin in front of me on my screen, occupying real estate. It also works on phones, Android and iOS. Get it. Very good. Super important and useful. So I'm going to put it back here. So let's begin now. I decided to organize this show. Can you go back, please?
Yes.
I decided to organize the show into actually different categories. And as you can see, we're going full analog. The first thing that I want to show and share with you is saturation plugins. What are they and what's the use for them? Great question. Tiago, do you know what a saturation plugin does? Can you pause your game?
You can pause an online game.
Yes.
So what was the question again?
Saturation. Look at that. Somebody's actually paying attention.
So what it does?
Yes. What do you think a saturation plugin should do?
Okay, from my understanding, a saturation plugin actually adds harmonic content to the source of the sound, and basically makes the sound a little bit richer and more interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, that's a very fancy way. Well, no, it's actually a very simple but precise way to describe them.
Mm-hmm.
I would add a little bit more to what you said.
Mm.
When you use a saturation plugin, there are two uses for it. If you approach to it during the production cycle of the whole endeavor of making a song, you can use the saturation plugin to shape up the sound and actually morph it into something different.
Mm.
The same, similar to what happens with a guitar.
Yep.
If you have an electric guitar going into your amplifier, and the amplifier is clean, but you put in between a distortion pedal, you push the fuzz, for example, and the guitar goes nuts.
Mm-hmm.
Different sound,
Yeah.
and it's going to be recorded as such. That would be one of the uses.
Mm-hmm.
Another use, let's say that we are mixing. If I put a saturation plugin on the bass, I will add, of course, using it on a much more subtle way, will add harmonic content, which will make the sound of the bass richer, fuller, and much more engaging. Let's do it. Here we go. Let's take a look at the sound over here. I already, totally not prepared, decided to create this looping region on which we're going to be working within this section. Let's listen to it first in context. Okay, that's the sound of the bass. Um, it's already sounding fat and rich, but let's play around with some saturation. And since this is a new project, let me just make sure that I'm not that my voice is still going through. Excellent, it's going through. Yeah, perfect. Let's keep rocking. Okay, let's start at a saturation plugin. In here, I decided to show you 3 types of saturations. We're gonna go for black box first, which is a kind of like a valve-like saturation circuit. This is made by these fine people at what's the name of those guys? Brainworks. And let me find it. Buzz Magic, no. Creative, no. Pixie Dust, no. Track Magic, no. Where is it? Here it is. I got it in front of me. It's Pixie Dust. Clearly, look. We're gonna load this bad boy. This is not Darth Vader, the rear. It's actually the interface of an actual black box. This is an emulation of a saturation circuit from the real world. Just as it comes out of the box, I'm gonna press play with the plugin inserted. Could you hear it, Diego?
Yes.
There's something already happening.
Yeah, and it's feeling. It's a kind of a harsh sound. The source itself is kind of harsh. It's smoothed it out a little bit. It remained.
It did, indeed.
Yeah, it still felt aggressive because it's an aggressive sound, but it was a little bit smoother.
Yeah, one way to describe it, it sounds a little bit warmer. Wouldn't you use that word?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a little bit, yes, a little bit rounder. Let's play around with it. This guy has this saturation control, which will affect a set frequency range that we select. And depending on how much we push this, we're going to change the behavior of the valves inside. Let's give it a try. It got fatter, right?
Yeah.
But in the right way.
And it also removed a tiny bit of the harshness.
It did. Now let's work around with a little bit more saturation. Let's see what happens. God damn, right? Let's take a look on context. Yeah,
Even going ballistics on this one worked.
Yeah, it did, indeed.
Yeah, because you went kind of nuts.
Yeah, I went kind of nuts, but why? Because the frequency range, this is kind of like a filter, this section over here. This is acting like a filter. So it's telling black box which frequencies are the ones that are going to be targeted by the saturation without affecting the rest. Of course, you have to turn on the saturation knob, but also you can control it here. We're going to give it a try to this guy over here, the alt tube, later on. But let's listen to it in context. Right now, in bypass, and then I'm going to insert it back. Here we go. Man, the kick.
Yeah.
The kick got better, right?
Yeah, it did.
It's due to the harmonic content. It's even cutting better, the bass. I would just duck down a little bit the output, now that we got it sounding badass. But let's take a look at the different saturation mode. Right now, we've been working with the standard tube, but if we click over here, on this section, we are gonna change the saturation circuit. Let's take a listen. Which one do you prefer?
Look, I felt that the second one was a little bit more aggressive on
It
the
is.
saturation.
Yes.
And since you already had it quite cranked up, I prefer the previous one.
Yeah, it's a little bit more subtle.
Yeah, it was a little bit too much.
Yeah, but this would be great on, for example, the snare, right? Because it's adding a lot of, like a lot of emphasis on the aggressive section or aggressive side of the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you got it. This is a much more refined way to use distortion. It's not over the top because it's not meant to be over the top, but the magic happens once you bring back the rest of the mix. Let's give it a listen again. Ready? Just as it is, first bypassed, and I will bring it back while the track's playing, because you always have to make sure that you're mixing in the context of the mix rather than mixing on an individual basis. Here we go.
Behind the door.
Great, right? So good. That would be the first kind of saturation that I would like to show you. This is kind of like a tube-like, like a valve amplifier, in the way it behaves. It's a little bit more musical. It's a little bit less in the nose, but it's aggressive in its approach, like a guitar amplifier. The next one is going to be tape saturation, which is a completely different beast. This is going to be mimicking the sound of a tape circuit, like if you were recording to tape. Okay, so let's take a listen to it. For this example, I'm going to apply it to the clap. Let's listen to the clap by its own. Sounds good, but sounds boring. Let's fix it. I'm going to insert now, once again, the distortion. There it is. And I'm going to go for this guy. This is Universal Audio's, excellent, it worked. Verb analog machines. And this guy, it's a very straightforward collection of different circuits. And as you can see by the graphics, all of them are tape machines. And, well, let's listen to it. I'm going to, once again, refresh your memories. And let's see how it sounds like by its own. And then I'm going to bring back the sound. What do you think?
First and foremost, really cool.
Good, right?
Yeah, really, really cool. Out of the circuits that you used, I would still need another run at them, but honestly, the one that jumped out to me was the Worm.
Warm.
Yeah.
Let's listen to it. I can see why. It has a little bit of balls to it, for a lack of a better term, because it actually has more of that thickness to it, right? I don't know how to describe it. It feels a little bit more aggressive, but not aggressive. It's kind of shaving off a little bit of the harshness of the sound, but also adds a little bit of bottom end.
Yeah.
But it's unlike an EQ, it feels not enhanced.
Yeah. Yeah,
Get me?
yeah, get you, yes.
Okay, so let's listen to this again in context. I'm gonna go through everyone, right? Every single one of these options. Bypassed, I'm gonna insert it, and then I'm gonna be switching between the different modes. Here we go.
Behind the door.
Okay, what do you think? Which one did you like the most?
I'm a little bit torn. The Worm's still a great contender.
It is very good.
Um,
But
I-
vintage.
The Vintage is cool as well. I think it's the one that popped the most. But I think I'll still stick to the Worm.
Me too. Me too. Let's listen to it again. I'm gonna now select Worm, and this is the essential variant of this plugin. There is a much bigger version that I haven't got. Why? Because I got the other plugins that this thing is using to mimic sound from. But I like this guy for music production purposes because it goes straight to the point. no BS. And you got a drive control here, which is the only control that you have access to. And I will use it right now just to drive up to taste and find the sweet spot on which the warm tape adds that particular saturation to the tone. So all the way down, here we go.
Behind the door.
How about that?
That's really good.
Very good.
Yeah.
It's starting to add some form of not EQ, because we're not actually EQing, but it's due to the saturation that we're getting out of the tape, that we're making the sound of the claps great again, but also thicker. They are cutting through the mix better. They are also feeling exactly as thick as that, but also they feel a little bit more. They fill the gaps. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, they have more presence.
Presence is a right way to describe it. Now, these would be tape. There are more examples when it comes to tape. I'm going to try a different plugin. This is going to be, once again, Universal Audio. And we're going to try the, let me see. We're going to try another plugin that is not that complex. Let me go straight to Universal Audio. Where is Universal Audio? Where Universal Audio, obviously. And we're looking for, damn.
You know the thing.
Damn. What's the name, Theo? Do you remember? It's not the starter.
I have no idea what you're looking
Oxide, thank you very much. Here it is. Okay, Oxide, it's a much more feature-rich tape machine, but it's still very, very simple in its use. We can change here the size of the of our tape. We can apply the different EQ curves to the sound, noise reduction, and how hot we're going to be hitting the internal circuit, okay? And over here we got the output controller, and if we want to go straight to the repro head rather than the whole circuit. Let's play around with it. Again, we're going to solve the sound of the clap, and right out of the box. Could you hear the difference?
Yeah.
Could you describe it?
I think it was a little bit.
Subtle?
It was more subtle than the previous
Yeah.
saturation plugin that you used.
Yep.
This one was a little bit rounder,
Yeah.
I think.
And since we got more control over it, let's play around with it. I'm gonna keep it on now, and we're gonna start to change some parameters. I'm gonna increase the input, which means that we're gonna be saturating faster. Of course, we will have to compensate. Oof. How about that? Let's see in context. Bypassed. It's good. Which one do you prefer the most?
In between the two plugins.
Yes.
Now that you push this guy a little bit more, I really liked it, but I think I'll still stick to the previous one. I really like that one.
Let's make a comparison.
Yeah,
We're gonna compare them both. Can you remove the overlays? It's gonna be better.
I can.
Thank you very much. We're gonna be making a comparison between both plugins in context. So right now we're gonna begin with comparing, just for my own organization. I'm gonna keep burp first, and then we're gonna switch to clap, to the Oxide. Okay. So let's begin with no plugins. Then we're gonna insert burp. Then we're gonna turn it off, switch back to Oxide, then go back to nothing, and we make our decision.
Okay.
Ready? What do you think?
Look, the way I felt them, I think that the oxide is a little bit more cutting, and the verve is a little bit more. I felt it a little bit thicker. I prefer for this application the verve.
That's, I think, the point of where we might. It's more about taste and flavor than which one is better. Because to my ears, Verb has a much vintagey sound due to the EQ that it has, the sound, the shape of the sound after the distortion. While Oxide feels very close to the original sound, but it feels, how can I put it, cuts through the mix better. Because the high end is preserved and enhanced, while Verb is a little bit more mid-ranging, which both are very useful for the sound.
Yeah.
It's more about which direction would you take the sound of your mix.
Robbie here is asking what was the tape speed on the last one.
Okay, let me take a look at it. Okay, when it comes to the tape speed, I assume that the last one is Oxide. So let's take a look at the screen, please.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, here, Oxide, tape speed. We're running, let me show you, I'm assuming to the parameters. Since you don't have control, you only have access to this control, so IPS, it's set to 15, nav, the EQ set to nav, noise reduction on, and the input, I cranked it up, what it would be like 2 o'clock, and then on the input, I dark it down, what could it be like 10 o'clock, and I set to repro. Okay? And if you're watching right now, you can screenshot this bad boy because I'm gonna save this preset actually. I liked it. This is gonna be a snappy clap.
Yeah, actually, it's a good word for that. I think this guy was snappier than the other one.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But damn it, snap clap. There is. Say that. Thank you. Here is. So, let's continue. There is one more kind of distortion of saturation that I'm going to show you. Just for sake of conversation, I'm going to stick to Verb for the sound of the snare from here onward, or for the clap and from here onward, okay?
Okay.
So now let's take a look at this. There is even a much more advanced way to apply distortion, which comes in the form of what is known as multi-band circuitry. What does that mean? What we're going to do is we're going to split the signal into the different major bands. And probably for those of you who are into audiophile stuff or music, it's the lows, the mids, and high end, just like that, okay? And we're going to be able to apply the saturation on each of those independently, but based on the same circuit.
Really cool.
Okay, let's do it. In this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of my drums, and I'm going to create a summing bus. In Logic, you can do it with something that is known as a track stack, and it's basically a fancy way for creating summing buses. That's it. And it simply arrange all of them, change the output of each of them to the corresponding bus, and creates a track on your arrangement window, and allows you to do this. So good.
Handy.
It's very handy. So I'm gonna properly name this bad boy to drums. Thank you very much. And here's where we're gonna be applying the saturation. Let me solo the drums for us to get familiar with the sound. And then the saturation plugin in question will be, let me go for it, distortion. We're gonna go for, what's the name of that guy? No, not Spice Rack. Sugar. Where's Sugar? I'm gonna go straight to this because it's made by the fine people at process.audio. Sugar, there is. Give some sugar, baby. That was an Evil Dead reference.
Bruh.
Later. Okay, this is the daunting, awful, but somehow retrofuturistic because this looks like the 2000s interface of Sugar. This is a multi-band saturation circuit. As you can see here, you got the control over the lows, as I explained to you, the medium, which would be the low mids, the highs, which would be the highs, the mid highs, and the air, which is the higher bands of the frequency range spectrum. There's a comment from Robbie. He's saying that 15 SP usually gives more saturation to high end. I find 30 SP gives more warmth and analog characteristics. Yeah, Yeah, I can agree on that one. He's referring to the Oxide plugin. It's just a matter of taste. And also, I will stress a lot on the concept of understanding the program you're working with. If the music that you're working on has this vintage sound, something, let's say that you're working on something similar to Fleetwood Mac. First and foremost, you're lucky. Second, it would get a lot of benefits out of something that is warmer in tone. But if you're working with something like early Metallica, you need harshness.
Yeah.
Get me?
Yeah,
Because it's the nature of the music. So that's why you need to have a collection that covers, and that's the point of this live stream. Okay, let me take a look at here. Sugar. Sugar, basically speaking, with this you control how much saturation, as you can see, it's increasing equally, like communism. And when everybody's equal, everybody's effed. So I'm gonna knock it down, and we're gonna be applying it to taste. I decided to do it on the drums because that way we can actually see the effect of the different saturation of the different bands, applying saturation to each of the bands. Okay, here we go. Holy mother of all F. Exactly. What do you think?
This thing's pretty awesome.
It's good, right?
Honestly, yeah. Because you started pushing on the lows. Of course, you went a little bit too far in the at one point, but when you found the sweet spot, that thing is really, really rounded and punchy.
What if I tell you that you can actually switch between two different modes of saturation per band?
Ah, for real?
Yes, you can.
That's
Let's do it. Look, you have control over the thick. Actually, they put thick. Look. Finally, we got thick. But also, it has a different set, so let's do it. You can even bypass the entire band, so you don't apply the saturation to that band in particular. Okay, but let's do it. We're rocking thick, then we're going to go to punch. Which one do you prefer? Thick or punch?
Okay, they're both quite cool. Honestly, I think they both work, but I prefer thick.
Okay. Now let's apply a little bit of extra. I also like thick better. Now let's apply
Thick.
Thick. Yeah. Okay, that was awful. Okay. Hopefully, it's not going to be used out of context on the internet.
Yes.
Now I'm going to apply the saturation. Okay. There is here on which we can actually change the different ways on which the saturation is applied. Let's go for overdrive. And I'm going to be cranking up this guy, okay? Which is going to increase the harmonics. So that drive, it's going to be softer than crush, obviously. Okay, here we go. That's excellent, don't you think?
Of course!
Exactly. It's awesome in context.
Behind the door.
How about that?
No, it's insane because it's at the same time punchier and thicker and smoother.
It's smoother, exactly.
Yeah.
Because it removes some of the harshness out of the hi-hats. And it's very good. And as Robbie says, I call thick the sound. Yeah. He's like, damn. Yeah, it's that good. Okay. So, as you can see, saturation alone has plenty of variants, it has plenty of uses, and it actually does many things. It shouldn't be seen as something that you only use to for sound design purposes. I love mixing with saturation, and it's one of the things that I always stress and encourage you to use when you're working with music, because saturation adds plenty of color, and it's because it's the closest we can get when working in the machine to what you do with analog stuff, because part of the sound that you get out of an analog synthesizer, for example, is how much it's being cooked by the preamp in its way in. That one exactly. Because that way, when you're working with a saturation circuit, such as, let's say that you're plugging it directly to this interface has actually discrete preamps, similar to what you find in a mixing console. So it allows you to actually have coloration in the way in by cranking up correctly the sweet spot. They're very clean, but they have punch in that regard. And by using these kind of plugins, you can actually add a lot of air and liveliness to a virtual instrument, a VST. How badass that is?
No, really cool.
Let me show you the next one. We're going to move over to the next category, which is the obvious dynamics or dynamic effects. Tiago?
Dynamics effects.
Yes, what is a dynamics effect? What does it do?
Dynamics affects anything that has to do with dynamics
Which
of your
is
sound.
Yes.
So dynamics is the difference in volume of any given source
Look
at
at
different
that.
point in time.
Look at that. Tony Maserati. Okay.
At times.
At times. No, but actually he's correct. Now, look, what we're going to be doing with a compressor, well, look at that. Totally not for slip. Now, dynamics is basically compressors, gates, all of those bad boys. And as Tiago already explained to you, is the kind of devices that you would use to control the dynamics of a signal. Let's do it. What's the whole point of it?
Just a quick intermission just
Go
before
ahead.
we move on to a different topic,
Thank
because
you.
Rob is making a comment here.
Go ahead.
To me, the subtle saturation on individual tracks is the key to non-digital sounding tracks.
Totally, man. Totally. That's the exact point that I was trying to make. And as usual, he did it better than I said it. Yeah, but it's actually a point, because BSTs and well, virtual instruments in general tend to have that way too precise nature. And even mixing digitally has that particular level of precision that, let's be frank, the best sounding records ever were mixed outside of box. And that's the sound we like. That's the sound we're looking for. And that's the sound we use as a reference whenever we're hitting the board. So the closest we can get to it is by mimicking those circuits, those systems. So it's important. But as Robbie states, it gotta be done with subtlety and in great taste, because there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Now, coming back to dynamics, which are quite related to saturation, actually. Let's apply some saturation, some dynamics to the bass. Once again, we're gonna bring in the different kinds of compressors, and let me take a look at my notes. We got two types that I want to discuss with you. There is compression, and there are limiters. Compressor. What kind of compressor I would like you to get first? Great question. My answer is simple. Get an 1176 plugin. Why? Let me show you. 1176 compressors, thank you very much. It's fat, thank you very much. 1178, no, 76. Run for this one. The metal. Lately. There is. That bad boy, you have seen plenty of photos of this guy in those badass studios around the world. This guy, I even have one here in 500 format. Don't show it. But what it does is a very, very feature-rich compressor, because it has plenty of controls at your disposal. As you might understand, ratio is how much you're compressing. Attack is how fast, how long it will take for the sound to be compressed. Release, how long it will take for the sound to be not compressed. How much you're putting the signal into the compressor and compensating through the output. Very simple, very, very simple. Let's play around with it. In this case, compression is the rare example in which mixing in solo is not necessarily a stupid idea. because I want you, and I would like to recommend you to get familiar with the sound of the compressor before you blend it into the mix. And something very important, you saw me playing around with the output on the different plugins that I have shown you before. Any given signal that is louder is always going to fool us into thinking that it's sounding better, when in reality it's just louder. Why? Because dynamics, right? In dynamics, for whatever reason, our brain understands louder as better. But it's not better, it's just louder. And always make sure that you compensate by bypassing and trying to match volume. Here we go. We're going to be applying a 4:1 ratio, and let's play around. And something very stupid about 1176s, if you want to make it faster, so the attack is faster, you go this way. If you want to make it slower, you go this way. How in the name of F does that make sense? Don't know. And it pisses me off. For real.
Can see.
Yeah, here we go.
We noticed.
Very subtle, but could you hear the difference? Could you
Yeah,
describe the difference?
It's actually another layer of thickening up the sound. It feels a little bit more robust.
It does, and that's the point. I decided to show you this kind of circuit because you have access to all of the controls that you need, and you can actually adjust it to work on anything you throw at it. That's the reason why you see so many of these bad boys everywhere, because they have plenty of uses. And if you're gonna go an extra mile and get something even more Swiss Army like, you can get, once again by Universal Audio, another compressor. Let me see, where do I have it? Is the Empirical Lab Distressor, which it's basically, I do have the license, but let me show you. UA connect. This thing, for whatever reason, I gotta open up this effort so I can make sure that all of my plugins are activated. And the problem is that if I want to activate this bad boy, I click on it, but I will have to restart the session on Logic.
Right.
Truly a problem. I truly mean it, because that also happens with Luna. Look, I gotta activate my licenses for everything on Luna, and you have seen me using those bad boys every time we were rocking Luna. Universal Audio, if you're watching this, please fix this up, because it's usually it happens every single time, like certain tribe, and it truly pisses me off.
Yeah, that's quite a pain in the butt.
It is a pain in the butt, because Thiago has also had to deal with it. Okay.
Since
Go
you
ahead.
mentioned me, I want to already take the scream to mention that Robbie is saying,
Go.
for those new to music production, Logic has some great compressors, all built in one unit.
Actually, good point. Let me address that. The built-in compressor in Logic, it's very, very powerful, and it's as powerful as it is ugly. But it's a plenty. It has plenty of great different variants of compressors inside of the same plugin. Does that look familiar? And it actually sounds very good. Very good. So if you happen to be rocking Logic Pro, you can get away with this guy in many instances. I actually like it, and I use it quite often. I simply decided to show you something that it's universally accessible. Audio-wise. Get it? Did you see what I did there? That was awful. Okay, wherever. I'm trying to be entertaining. So coming back
Failing.
to failing miserably. Okay, let's bring back the 1176. First, let's listen to the bass without compression in context. Then we're gonna insert the 1176 and we will rejoice. Here we go.
Behind the door.
What do you think?
You even got Van Damme dancing.
Yeah, even Van Damme. But no, for real.
It's good enough for Van Damme.
If it's good enough for Van Damme, it might be good enough for me. No, actually, one thing. Could you hear the difference?
No, I
It's
could hear it.
super obvious, right?
Yeah, it was actually quite good.
Yes. So why is that important? Compressor on a bass signal such as this one, and based on the parameters that or the way I set the parameters on the compressor, it made the sound of the bass to feel consistent, but we're not squashing it. We're not making it in your face, if that makes sense. So good.
Yep.
But how about if we want to go a little bit in your face? Let me show you. I'm going to apply a different compressor. I'm going to turn it off, and in this case, we're going to use a limiter. Different, it's the same, but way more dramatic. And we're going to go for something called Inflator by the badass people at Oxford Laboratories. This guy is so good that it's so bad. Let's do it. Solo in the bass.
Behind the door.
What do you think?
Actually, I liked it better than I expected.
Why?
No, the thing is
It's
that-
Oxford. This is one of the best plugin brands.
No,
What's
no,
wrong with you?
I don't mean because of that. No, it's just that I expected it to be aggressive in a way that it would be out of place.
Oh, you know why? Because it actually has a blend. It's there, look. This section over here, it's the way that we can control how much of the overly compressed signal is being applied. And as you can see, I went for 50-50. Also, what I did, I pushed the input handsomely, quite a lot, so I could be squashing. This is basically doing a parallel compression thing on a bass, on the
Okay.
bass.
Yeah.
A big disclaimer. Would you describe the sound of this plugin as being bolts to the wall, much more in your face, much more aggressive sounding than the 1176?
Not by that much as you framed it, but it is more.
It is more.
Yeah, yeah.
Which one sounded better? To my ears, based on the concept, Inflator is doing the job better than 1176. Why? This is electronic music. And electronic music needs this face melting punchiness to it. The 1176 is more rock and roll. And this guy is, as the name implies, is inflating the signals, just making it louder but controlled and in a better musical way. What do you think? Do you agree with that one?
I agree, because now it's seeing not only what it's doing to the sound, but seeing it in context.
Yes.
Because it is a little bit, it has a more processed quality to it, which maybe on something that is a little bit more organic in nature, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But here it did.
Man, and it excelled. I gotta say that I love the sound. I wasn't expecting it to be this good. So there you got it. Limiter and compression both do the same, but one does it in a completely bonkers fashion. And a limiter is something that you would also have inserted as part of your master chain on your master bus, but in using it in a different way. You would apply it super gently, in a way that is just controlling potential peaks and adding a little bit of extra glue to the sound. It's a completely different approach. So be careful. And this is the kind of stuff that is applied also at the end of the mastering process to make sure that your mix is as loud as it can be without destroying somebody else's speaker setup. Let's continue. According to the analog system, we're gonna now take a look at EQs. And I have decided to divide them into two different categories. Can you go big? We're gonna be rocking two different categories. The first one is gonna be what I like to call surgical EQs, and another one is gonna be characterful EQs. Surgical EQs are the ones that allows you to be more nitty-gritty and affect certain sections of your signal, frequency-wise, that will be potentially problematic, but that you just want to attack that particular narrow band rather than the spectrum that it's the low end, for example. And in contrast with a characteristic or colorful equalizer, that's the one that it has a particular shape to it that, regardless of how much you try to pinpoint a particular section, is going to give you a sound. And those are the ones I like the most. Why? Because those are foolproof. Those are actually very musical, and it's very fast to work with them. But the problem is that there are certain points on which you need the surgicals as well. Let's take a look at the screen. Okay, let's play around with something different. We're going to be rocking the Juno, this recording, as our what's the name of this? Our experiment section. Let's first work with something surgical. A surgical EQ would be something like the humble built-in EQ on Logic. Why? Because you have control over the different bands. You can select them, you can move them around, and you can control the EQ. That's what I consider to be a surgical EQ. Mm-hmm. Okay? Because you can actually go super precise, and you can even go sniper mode.
Quick question.
Go.
If you're categorizing the EQs based on the amount of control that they have over the features,
yes,
then allegedly an EQ with a lot more controls can still do the same as an EQ with less controls. So wouldn't an EQ with a lot of control be better?
Not necessarily, because you'll see once I hit the colorful or the characterful EQ that there is something more than just the bands being affected. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's do something quick with this guy. You can do it with any digital EQ you like, or you can go a little bit the extra step ahead. We can go for something a little bit more fun, such as the where is it? Let me. Ah, damn it. Let's go for the Mag. The Mag is also something that I would categorize in between characterful and surgical, because you can actually have control over the bandwidth of certain areas. And not necessarily this one doesn't have it. Sorry, I picked the wrong plugin. The one that I was looking for is the SSL. I'm gonna pick. Let me find it. Where's SL Fusion Violet EQ? This is one, sorry. The Violet EQ on its glorious format. Look at this. It doesn't even have. Look, let me explain. The hardware version, which I happen to own 2 of them, have the actual sniper mode. Like, I know if it's possible for you to show it.
Yeah,
look. There is. So take me to the full frame, please. Over here we got the EQ, but wherever it's not visible. But things that it has the possibility for you to actually snipe out and select a particular frequency range. So let's go back. I'm gonna switch to a different one. I'm gonna select the SSL. Okay. Why? SSL. I think graphic console. Yes, it's gonna be this. I'm gonna go straight because I wanted to save this for last, but whatever. Here is SL done. Okay. Sorry. The thing is that I wanted to show you and introduce the concept of channel strips later, but whatever. An SSL EQ, it's also one that I consider to be surgical because it actually allows you to control the bandwidth, not the bandwidth, the width of your band on both the mid highs and the low mids. And that's what makes an EQ snipey. Let's play around with something like this. Let's listen to the sound of the Juno by its own. Okay? Nothing fancy, nothing exciting. In context. Could you hear the nose?
Yeah, actually.
Very big, right?
Yeah.
Super big. What is a nose? This. Could you hear it now? I overly exaggerated it. Let's cut it out. But how? I'm gonna dog down this guy to taste until we find the sweet spot. This is what makes an EQ surgical. I can select the band, I will be able to cut down to taste, and then I will be able to see how many of the neighboring bands, neighboring frequencies will be affected by my EQ. Let's go. Here we go. Now we know that that sounds awful. We're gonna cut it to taste. And EQs are meant to be used in context. Don't EQ solo because that makes no sense whatsoever. Let's do it.
Behind the door.
How about that?
Okay, that's actually pretty good.
That was good, right?
Look, I have a question to
Go.
make regarding a statement that you just made, but I think it's worth exploring a little bit more in depth.
Go ahead.
You made the comment that you shouldn't apply EQs in solo,
Yes.
and you said that there's no such problem with compressing.
Yeah.
Why? What's the difference that makes the approach so different from one
Okay.
another?
Good question. The answer is this. With an EQ, your objective is to make the sound of wherever you're applying the EQ to fit better with the rest of the mix. Okay? Why we got this awful no sound once I brought back the rest of the instruments? Because you got a point on which many of the different sounds happening at that point are clashing because they are fighting for the space of in the stereo bus, the master mix that we're actually listening to right now, fighting for that particular space, and this sound is not contributing in any way, shape, or form to that sound other than just getting in the way. And it's masquerading some of the good stuff that should be, and it's actually occupying that space. If you just solo and cut, what are you doing? You see?
Yeah.
In contrast, when compressing, if you solo, you will be able to see if you're actually doing something to the sound because you are controlling loudness and dynamics. And what you want to see is if you are not doing something overly done or underdone. You have an idea, remove the solo, and then play around with the parameters on your compressor in context. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's
Thank
a good
you.
question.
Yeah.
And that's a common mistake that happened to me at the beginning of my career. I sucked hard. And one of my biggest problems was not knowing when to use the solo button. Because your instinct tells you that my voice sounds like ass. Let me solo it so I can actually give it fix it.
Wrong.
Exactly. That's not the way to go. What you need to do is, my voice sounds bad. Let me see why. Which part of the stereo spectrum is actually masquerading or overhyping the elements that comprises the sound of my vocals. And then from there is where you decide what to do. You could either tackle the vocals or tackle wherever is masquerading or enhancing the vocals in that particular region. It could be the hi-hats. Who knows? Get me?
Yeah, there.
Now, let's do the same trick, but with Logic's built-in EQ. Just for referencing point, I'm going to keep this bad boy open, so remove the ground hooks. Thank you. Inserting humble EQ. And we're hitting 914. So let's do something similar. I'm going to rock in this band. Here we go. What do you think?
One thing that I find most interesting about the use of EQs was quite showcased now is the fact that even though you only cut, you didn't enhance anything, you just cut.
It sounds better, right?
It pops.
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't feel louder.
No.
But it pops better, even though you cut.
Yes.
Because the stuff that was kind of in the way just gave way for the good stuff to shine.
As you said it. Perfectly said. Exactly. That's the point. That's the very reason why you never mix. You shouldn't be applying EQs gratuitously in solo. Okay? Now, let's compare both. We're going to stick to the humble EQ and then we're going to move over to the SSL.
Behind the door.
What do you think?
For as much as the humble Logic EQ is actually doing a pretty good job, I
Yeah.
still have to go with Logic.
So the SSL sounds...
Logic, no SSL.
SL Logic, you're correct. Yeah, the SSL has a much musical sound. It's simply the shape of the EQ. That doesn't make any built-in EQ useless. No, of course not. They simply have a particular set of sounds that sometimes, and you will have to believe in this one, but it has actually been the EQ to go in certain mixes, for real, because it does what it's needed. And also, Logic EQ has actually a high quality mode, let's say, which enhances the performance of the EQ.
Behind the door.
I still prefer the SSL.
That's kind of hard to beat.
It is very hard to beat because it's not only doing the EQing, it's also doing the emulation of the circuit of the entire channel strip. Which one is better? Well, as I said before, it's based on the program material that you're working with and the situation. As the same what happened with the inflator and the 1176, none of them is superior to the other. They have their uses, and in this case, the SSL is getting the cut.
And I imagine that the built-in EQ is a little bit more, let's say, for the lack of a better word, plain.
Is less interesting.
But I'd say plain has its uses as well. At times
Yeah.
you're gonna need plain.
Yeah, sometimes you need something simple rather than colorful. Okay, excellent. Now, you can go even more surgical with something like the freaking, for example, the BX Digital. Bam! Yeah, like that.
That's kind of daunting.
It's daunting, but this is something more, something better for stereo buses. It's a great sounding plugin, but also, well, this is stereo bus, but I would use it on the master stereo bus. That's what I meant. You can also use something extreme as where is it? Split EQ, fan favorite.
Yes.
This is a
Yeah.
bad boy.
Really like that guy.
Yeah, because this guy is doing the similar to what the Logic EQ is doing, but you can actually attack the transient information independently from the harmonic information. That good. Yeah, so we won't be using it today. Now, the next one that I would like to tackle is now the colorful EQ. I'm gonna apply to the bass. Let's say that we're happy with the sound of the bass. Now we're going to insert a little bit of EQ to add more balls to the sound. And in this case, I will use a colorful EQ. The first one that comes to mind is obviously the Pultec. There you go. Why? Well, just listen.
Behind the door.
Is that enough? Are you entertained?
No, but you don't even need to say anything else about the plugin. That's all you need to know about it.
Yeah, yeah. Why? Because just look at the simplicity of the controls. You select your band here, and you're hitting allegedly something akin to 60 hertz. Exactly. Then you boost that signal, and the cue, who knows? It just does it. And you attenuate it, which is you cut off, you create and shape up the filter. The curvature is actually performed, you create the curvature here. It's incredible. And it's one of the oldest designs for EQs. Then you do the same, but on the highs. And again, sometimes you just simply use the attenuation as a low pass filter, and it sounds as a low cut, high pass filter, and it sounds bananas. So that's the difference between a surgical and a characterful equalizer. You got any comments before I move over?
Yeah, so look, Robbie is actually asking us here.
Yeah.
Would it be wise to mention the order of plugins? I know my method,
Okay.
says he.
Good, great question. The whole point of having a proper the sequence, it's very important. Look, I'm gonna use the base, which is the one that we have inserted the biggest amount of plugins so far. I'm gonna remove this guy because we ended up not using it. Allegedly it's gone. Don't crash. Don't, they didn't crash. Good. Okay. So we got our sequence like this. Right now we're rocking. Don't crash again. Is there universal audio stuff? There is. Thank you. Here is. Okay. Look. Right now we're first applying saturation, which tailors the sound of our bass to the sound of mix. Then we compressed it and controlled the sound that we designed. Then, through the use of EQ, we made it fit better and enhanced the stuff that should be further enhanced for the betterment of the mix. It's super important to follow a particular order. Is there any set order, or is there any rule of thumb? There is a rule of thumb. I would recommend you to follow something similar to what I just did here. First, apply some form of color to your sound, then control the dynamics, and then apply some shine through the use of an EQ. Does that mean that that's what you do every single time? No. That only means that if you understand the importance of those steps and why you do it in that sequence, you can get a better sounding mix. Make sense?
Makes
Because
sense.
the whole point of it is to enhance, prepare, adapt. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we got a big comment here. Can you read it, please?
Okay, I can indeed. So we have Marco MB.
Yes?
He's saying, what plugins would you recommend for recording a live guitar amplifier?
Okay.
First time doing it, I've always recorded DI. Thanks, awesome channel. You know your shite.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Okay, Marco. First, I will address that question attacking it from two different perspectives. First one, I will pretend that you are recording your guitar using a DI box, like a load box, like a reactive load box, such as the one made by Universal Audio, the aux. Okay? What plugin would I recommend you to get? Let me show you. In this instance, what you're doing is you're connecting your guitar into the amplifier, and the amplifier is then the output of the amplifier is connected to the load box, allowing you to record the sound of the amp going into your recording system, such as your interface, straight, with no form of cabinet simulation or cabinet sound inbound. This is the plugin that I will recommend you to get. Let me show you. In this case, we don't have any form of guitar right now, but I'm going to show you the plugin anyway, just for the sake of conversation. This is a plugin made by, let me find it, amplifiers, here is, guitar amps, cabinet speakers, thank you very much. This guy. There are other videos of me using it in the channel, with me in the channel, but this is a great solution for any of you who are recording guitars, such as this. You are actually in here. You can recreate the sound. You get a collection of IRs, which are impulse responses, which recreate the sound of a cabinet speaker being recorded through a particular signal path. Okay, and it comes loaded with plethora of different sounding speakers. Very good, but doesn't stop there. You can create a blend of different speakers at the same time. You can move the microphone around the entirety of the speaker. You can add it, get it closer or far away from the speaker cone, and you can blend both of the different sounds of the speakers at the same time. But there is more. You can also use this section over here, which allows you to change the size of your cabinet. Right now is in this side you're recording, you're using something, using a cabinet using 2 speakers by 12, but you can go all the way up to 8, which means this is a bass amp. That's ridiculous, but you can still do it with a guitar. With a guitar. And in what else? You can select a plethora of different microphones, which changes the IR, of course, and you can blend them. You get up to 3 on each side. It doesn't stop there. There is more.
I dig the stuff.
It is very good, man. It also has this room thing, which actually adds a little bit of reverberation to the sound of your guitar, recreating the tone and the vibe of it being recorded inside of a room. So far, so good, right?
Yes.
I'm going to stop here because that's basically a video on its own. But now let's say that you're recording your guitar straight into your computer, into the interface. Just guitar, DI, straight to the converter. No problemo. You can use this guy as well, but then you need an amplifier, right? Well, of course, the one I recommend is Tonex. I happen to be a proud user of Tonex by IK Multimedia. Where the hell is Tonex? Here it is. Why? It's so good, man. It comes with the Celestion. It comes with the IR thing as well. You can load your own IRs, but it's using something similar to a profiler. It's basically a profiler, which means that it's using snapshots of the sound of your guitar, of a guitar amplifier set in a particular position, and it mimics or recreates the tone quite similar to it. Now, Marcus is saying that he's trying to get my Fender Twin Reverb sound. Okay, you will. Okay, I'm trying to get amp sound, but it's I can't. But if I can't, then mix it up. Okay, look. This would be Tonex if you're going straight into the box. You're not recording a guitar amplifier, a real live amp. Tonex would be a great solution because you are looking for a twin reverb, right? Let me see if we get something similar to a twin. Just for where is the search? Oh, Jesus Christ! This is what happens when you're going live, man. Wherever there are plenty of, and there has to be a twin reverb, of course. That looks like a twin reverb. So the thing is that you can actually find the tone of the guitar that you want, or get something close enough to it through the use of Tonex. I would recommend you, Marco, to take a look at some of the dedicated videos that we have produced on Tonex. That might help you to make a decision. Another one that you can get, I also like a lot, is, of course, the almighty Guitar Rig. Mm-hmm. Being a long-time fan of Native Instruments, Guitar Rig also has everything you need, including effects. And let's say, and in the models, for example, this components there is. We can get something like amplifiers. There you go. Chicago Bass Pro, Fire Seeker, Jump. Wait a minute. There is.
Twine reverb.
Yeah, you know what I mean, right?
That bullet was dodged by
like millimeters.
Yeah.
So this is also a great solution for recording guitar in the box. This is very good sounding, very clean. Well, not clean, very dynamic in its response, and it has plenty of options. and it also comes with badass sounding effects, such as modulation wise. It has basically the some of the best native instruments plugins that, believe me, they're freaking good in the format that makes everything compact. This is Guitar Rig 6. Right now, the much more current is Guitar Rig 7, which is even much more feature rich. I don't have it yet. Why? Because I am a complete user. That's the name of the suite, and I am gonna upgrade the entire suite soon enough in the next few months. And it's not something that you just simply do. Okay, so let's put it at that. Okay, so let me check. Checking your videos. Oh, thank you, Marco. Thank you very much. And for real, feel free to ask, to leave any question on those videos as well, because the issue with this, man, is that there are so many tools, and those tools might not be they might be great, but they might not be the thing that you're looking for, and it could stop you from reaching your goals. Doing what I'm doing here, well, I have seen a lot. Okay, so I can help in that regard. So hopefully that kind of we derailed a little bit, but it's still within the range of what this live stream is about. Coming back to the program, we were discussing EQs. So let's see, we already covered the two types. Now let's go for something a little bit. Well, we already covered even channel strips. What makes a channel strip easy? Everything we already did, but in one plugin. Why? Because you got your dynamic section here, which is compressors and gates. You got the input, which is adding saturation, and you got the EQ. And that's why you see this over here. This is my controls for my channel strips, the SSL made plugins. I love rocking these bad boys every freaking mix, because in here I have, as you can see, it's basically the same interface as the plugin, but this allows you to control the plugins without having to open them up and with your fingers. It's just to make my life faster, and it makes me feel like a big boy. Okay. Now, moving over, we're gonna get to much more, a little bit more fun territory, which is sticking to my analog system. Reverb. Finally, something fun. Reverb, it's basically a freaking system that allows us to recreate the sound of a particular space. And I decided to divide them into two categories again. There is the category that I like to call real-like, lifelike. And then we got the category that I like to call it's not safe for work, fancy. Okay, let's put it that way. So, what is the real life like a sound? It's something that will help you to recreate the actual sound of a space. Let me show you a few options. Hopefully, Universal Audio is not going to keep playing tricks on us. Let's go random, and I'm going to apply it to the sound of my Moog. I'm going to apply it straight to it. No, I'm going to do something better. I'm going to do parallel mixing. I'm going to create a bus. I'm going to apply it to my hole. Get it? See what is there? Okay, whatever. I'm going to apply it there, and I'm going to make sure that the output is correct, because otherwise you won't be able to listen to it. There you go. This is going to be whole reverb. Whole. Caps, damn it.
Not to be confused with whole.
Whole, yeah, whole. Okay. And we're going to insert it here. The plugin in question, and hopefully Universal Audio is going to play shenanigans on us. Again, it's going to be the Capitol Chambers.
Oh, that guy's very good.
There is not. Okay. Wherever. We're going to use something different. Let me find something that is a little bit like that. You know what? We might...
That's a shame, that guy's so good.
It's so good, man. And let me... Space Designer. We're gonna go humble. This is an IR loader.
Okay.
It is basically that. And the IRs that it comes loaded with are actually the sounds of spaces. And they're aplenty. They're built in. Look, you got all of this. And when it comes to rooms, you got large spaces, and bam. So we're gonna be rocking a hall. So let's large choir. Let's see how it sounds like. It's gonna be full on wet. There it is now. Here we go. I'm gonna be sending the sound of my pitch factor. It sounds like this. That's good. That's very good. Why? We're gonna create some form of ambience, so we can amalgamate the entirety of the instruments that are part of this track to feel like they are playing together. That's the goal of this particular kind of reverb circuit. Let's do it.
behind the door. Behind the door.
How about that?
No, it's insane. The difference is insane.
Why?
Well, of course, it is making the sound a little bit more interesting. It's making the sound cooler.
Yep.
But more than anything, is giving us the glue factor.
Is the glue factor.
Yeah, it's
And
making the whole thing feel put together.
Yes, and I'm not compressing anything. It's just because I'm playing something known as psychoacoustics. It's basically me playing tricks on your head. So, no, for real. Because by creating this kind of feel of being inside of a particular space, it allows for the sound of the instruments to blend together in a much more natural sounding fashion. Okay? So those are the lifelike reverb. Okay? Now let's go for the fancy. Now I'm gonna use the same pitch factor sound, but I'm gonna now go nuts. I'm gonna use this guy plate. I'm not gonna use a plate reverb. No, I will. Actually, it's a good idea because those guys tend to sound larger than life. So this is gonna be plate. But you know what? It's not gonna be plate. It's gonna be black hole. So we can go full on insane.
Going ballistics.
Ballistics, man. So the plugin in question is made by the fine people. Is now getting outside of even your screen, but trust me, bro.
Yeah.
This is made by the fine people at what's the name of those guys? Eventide,
Yes.
obviously.
I'm actually impressed that this is the first Eventide plugin that you mentioned today.
It is, and I happen to be a huge fanboy. If it was my own choice, my name would be Eventide. No, of course not. But that was lame ass. But where as well. But look, coming back to it. Just remove the overlays for a few seconds, please, Seo.
Yes.
Just for sake of transparency, we are creating yet another summing bus. I'm gonna make sure that the output is correct as well. The sum, and it's loaded with the black hole plugin, so you can bring me back. I'm gonna crank up the mix so only the sound of the black hole is coming back to us. And let's send some of the sound of our. I'm gonna hide the drums. I'm gonna send some of the sound of our pitch factor effect. There is everybody fits in. Okay, to this particular sound. Okay, it's controlled to this through this plate. Here we go. I'm prepared to be amazed.
Behind the door.
Isn't it beautiful?
I actually think that the black hole sounds like that meme.
It does.
It kind of
It
sounds
does.
like that.
Yeah. Let me solo the sound so you can actually see this bad boy in its what is on its own. Okay. I'm gonna back it off all the way down. And I'm just effing around. For real. I'm not even, I don't even have a plan. In context again.
Behind the door.
Man. So good. So good. Now, this is taking us to the final category that I got here. Well, it's two categories, but I'm going to be tackling them quickly, because this is quite self-explanatory. Delay and modulation. According to my analog system, delay, I divided them into two categories, digital and analog. What's the difference? Very easy. Digital delay is going to recreate the sound as it came in. Exactly, pristine, no nothing other than the sound being repeated a certain amount of times. In contrast, an analog delay is gonna do its best on getting as close as possible to the original sound on each repetition. But clearly, by doing its best, it's clearly failing. So it's actually getting worse and worse with each repetition. So what's the point? It's super musical, man. Super musical. So let's play on with it. Let me see what kind of source can we use here for delay. We don't have that many options actually. Let's do it just as for sake of experimentation. I'm gonna mute out the sound of our Moog, of our pitch factor, and I'm gonna apply the sound of the delay to the Moog, which is the arpeggiator. I'm gonna go to delay, and we're gonna insert the look with Echo. Play and try both sounds. Echo Boy is a cool sounding. This is gonna be just the tape. There's the saturation. So I'm gonna let's begin with it. Analog sound. Echo Boy is a very good sounding delay, and it sounds like this by its own. Cool, right?
Yeah, pretty cool.
Very colorful. That's the whole point of this kind of delays. It's not about precision. It's not about getting the echoes. This is about getting an extra vibe. This has been applied to a mono signal, mind you. Let's do the same, but with a stereo bus. I'm gonna remove Echo Boy here. We're gonna create yet another bus. This time I'm gonna select this stereo delay. There it is. Thank you very much. I'm gonna just make sure that it's outputted through the correct output. Otherwise you won't hear it. I would, but you won't. That's not the point. I'm gonna insert once again Echo Boy, but we're gonna go, in this case, full on. Okay. From here, I'm gonna begin sending the sound of my Moog to the Echo Boy and to test. Here we go. You saw that it begins to kind of degrade. I'm going to increase the feedback so it's more audible. Not bad, right?
Yeah, like it.
Let's try a different. I think chip tape is going to be the one. God damn it, that's good. Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's badass. Now, let's try the same, but digital. So, Echo Boy goes to sleep, delay. We're gonna select something funkier, a little bit more crazy. Not that crazy, H3000 crazy, no. We're gonna go replica crazy. This plugin, it's also scary as I am. Yeah. But this guy is actually quite, it's one of my favorite delays there are, actually, because it sounds very good. I'm going to keep it simple right now, so just making sure that the mix is all the way up, so it's applied correctly. And we're going to go for a digital, vintage digital, there it is. And let's see. Could you hear the difference?
Yes.
It's more precise, right?
Yeah, yeah. It feels a little bit more. How can I say?
Clear, clean.
Yes, it's cleaner. It's cleaner indeed.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's basically that. Let's see in context. It makes itself way more apparent. It feels that it's there. In this case, I wouldn't use it. Why? Because Echo Boy doing the analog sound blends in, because it's just degrading. Listen to it, Echo Boy right now.
Behind the door.
Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I do agree. I was expecting to like best the replica because of the synthetic nature of the
Yeah.
sound itself. I saw that something more modern would work better with it. But honestly, the Echo Boy is actually taking the cake here.
Yeah, 100%. So that's why it's important to understand concept, context, and application. Those are the core tenets of mixing music. Now, finally, hitting the last part of this journey, we're going to be applying modulation. Modulation is, according to my analog system, it's stuff that is meant to add dimension and funkiness. Okay. So,
To quote.
To quote, yeah. What do I mean by that? As the same what happens with time-based effects such as the delay and reverb, modulation is also good to be applied while when mixing on a parallel fashion. Again, is it a rule set in stone? No. You have seen me in some other previous live streams on which I'm mixing music, inserting modulation plugins right on the channels as part of the channel strip, similar to what I do with a guitar pedal. Okay. In this case, I won't. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use the sound of the Moog again, or even better, I'm gonna use the sound of the Moog and the what's the name of this guy, White, and the Juno for this experiment. Output is gonna again there it is. This is delay. This is mod. Okay. Proper namings. There is. For modulation, I'm gonna be inserting. Let me see. I want to try something. I'm gonna use something that you haven't seen before. Tristar chorus. Yes. Oh damn it! This is one of the best sounding chorus pedals you can get, and I say pedals because this is actually out of the H9 a series of guitar pedals. Fantastic pedals, I may say. You might even say that I have several of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
To the point of compulsion.
to the point of being actually starting to be a problem. No, it's because I do like these guys quite a lot.
No, they all sound amazing.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go deep into the sound. But what it's gonna be basically doing a modulation into the nitty gritty of the plugin. But with modulation, we're gonna add dimension by creating a little bit of a detune version of the original signal being fed to the chorus, but it's gonna be done in a way that it's not too in the nose. We're gonna just make the sound of our mix sound wider. Okay, so which instruments I'm gonna be sending to it? I'm gonna be sending the Juno, which is the pad, and the toca 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 thing. Okay, here we go. In context, and then I'm gonna solve those bad boys. Here we go. Context. Could you tell the difference?
No, the difference was quite big. And the thing is, it wasn't just thickening up those sounds, it felt like the whole mix became thicker.
Yes, because I'm applying it in the context of the mix, and I did it with the utmost of care. I didn't go bananas. I'm barely sending a little bit of information to it. But I did it just to the sweet spot on which I felt that, look at that, someone's playing Halo. So I push it just loud enough for it to feel wide. Let's try a different approach. I'm going to keep the same, but I'm going to use a different modulation effect. This time around, we're going to be using flanger. We're going to be using Insta Flanger. Now flare, which is even funkier. Rather than making the dimension effect, I'm gonna go funky. Flare is basically a flanger, and it sounds like this.
Okay, I love it.
Damn! In context. So good, man. So good. And you can see that I'm not even touching the controls. It's just showing, okay? But we added motion. Why? Because we're modulating the sound. And I am blending it in to the rest of the mix by controlling how much of my sound is being sent to the flare. How about that?
No,
So,
awesome.
final comments. We managed to cover everything. I think we went a little bit overboard with timing, but wherever. We finally finished. So
No, but there was quite a lot of ground here covered, and I actually think that in between different sections of this episode, there was quite a lot of the basics of mixing that became quite clear here. I like it. I like it quite a lot.
I hope they did.
Well, yes.
Because I did my best, but you know what that means. No, well, okay, but in a nutshell, this is actually just me scratching the surface of the different and the insane, basically unlimited amount of options that you got when it comes to finding the right plugins, the right tools for the job. As you may know, there are several free plugins that are good. For those of you who have been following the channel, you know that I have a particular stance on free stuff. But I show you only plugins that you can. I try to strictly stick to plugins that anybody can buy. None of those plugins you saw here require a DSP accelerator, such as the ones from Universal Audio, because even though I rocked or attempted to rock some Universal Audio plugins, those are now natively running. They now run natively, if that makes more sense, grammatically speaking. Native instruments, all of them are native, hence the name. And the SSL channel strip that you saw me using is the one produced by Brainworks. It's not the SSL one, but it's very good. So there you have it. There you have it. Those are the plugins that I would recommend you to get based on the categories. I try to pick the ones that would be the most versatile, the ones that covers the most ground, and could allow you would allow you to start off a career as a mixing engineer or music producer for that matter. Because not only these techniques applies to the mix in music, you could apply this in the mixing in the production environment because we're mangling audio, basically. So why wouldn't you use it while actually bringing the wrath of God down on earth through music? So please feel free to ask any question regarding this plugin showcase here. And if you happen to be busy, we're going to be releasing a super short version of this live stream next week. So stay tuned for that one. So if you'd like to support this channel, the best way to do it is by listening to music on Apple Music or Spotify, and also by following us on Instagram, such as Instagram and X, because that's the best way for you to get in touch with us on a much more personal basis. Sorry, I got distracted by the freaking awfully positioned overlays. And what else do I have to say? Yeah, always remember that you should never let anybody tell you what to dream about, and remember that we will see you when we see you, unless they were still playing Halo.